So good afternoon. My name is Joris Lohman. I am the chairman of the youth food movement because I'm young. And I'm also one of the founders of the Food Film Festival. And I want to talk to you today about what we have done with the Food Film Festival. The youth food movement is a network, an interdisciplinary network of young farmers, students, and other people that are in some way related to food and actively try to change the food system. I'm very honored to be here today, and I especially compliment Remco Verkerk for offering the stage to a couple of very inspiring, mostly food-related speakers, but also young speakers like myself and Darlene Beggers, and giving us the chance to share our idea with you today. Yeah, that's it. The idea that I wanted to share with you today is actually the idea that is the basis of the youth food movement, and it's also the idea that lays at the core of the Food Film Festival. And it is the idea that we can change the world with food. I myself was born in Amsterdam, right in the city center, and I realized that I don't really know the people that produce my food. The first time I actually met a cow was in the Albert Heijn when it looked at me from the package. And that's actually the way the people in the city relate to their food. They only know it from the supermarket. My mother is a very good cook. She especially liked taking us out to dinner and making us eat special foods and maybe difficult foods, like for instance sprouts and oysters and salmon. And she always used to say, yeah, other kids, they don't really like sprouts, but that's because they don't understand. It's really cool of you that you do like sprouts. And my sister, she's also here today, she had another very interesting food preference. Until she was 8, she only ate pasta without any sauce. And then when she was 9, another food preference, her favorite dish became snails, in the French way, with a lot of garlic. So imagine this 9-year-old girl ordering a dozen of snails with pasta as a side dish, without any sauce, of course. I'm telling you this to underscore the value that food has in my life and in that of my sister. I think that food is really something important, and that can also be something that is cool. And I don't like to waste food. I really try to, give it a lot of value in my life. I must say that I'm not eating that healthy every day. Or that I eat anything at all when I was organizing the Food Film Festival. That's one of the great paradoxes of organizing a food film festival, that you don't eat yourself at all. But it was actually years later, when I was already doing my final thesis at the University of Amsterdam in political science, that I got fascinated by the people that produce the food. And I realized that a lot of problems that we have in this world are very much related to the way that we produce it. I mean, climate change, loss of biodiversity, peak oil, all those things that worried me. I realized that it had a lot to do with the way that we produce our food on a big scale. And as a Amsterdam city dweller, I have never, in the 21st century, I have never experienced real hunger. And I realized at a certain moment that it was not that straightforward, actually, that I've never experienced hunger. It was enough food in Europe is something that we had only for a couple of decades. And maybe my dad hasn't really experienced hunger, but my granddad certainly has. So I want to tell you a story about food in Europe, and I can't really do the video myself, so I'm asking you to click. And put the video on, yeah, please. Without any sound. So let me tell you a story about 50 years of food. Let me tell you a story about 50 years of food in Europe. Can you put the, yeah, thanks. After the Second World War, the founding fathers of the European Union, amongst which was the Netherlands, they decided it was time to create a master plan to ban hunger for good from Europe. because the memory of the Second World War was still vivid, especially in the Netherlands. We had the hunger winter, and the idea was to create a system of subsidies to ensure the farmers of a stable income, so they could produce a lot of food in a cheap way. At the same time, technical innovations arrived, like tractors, and it was decided that farming on a small scale was not efficient, so farmers either had to make their companies bigger, their farms bigger, or had to stop farming. And actually it's because of these subsidies that Europe grew to be one of the most successful economies in the world. Because food was artificially cheap, people could spend their money on other things, and it was actually the basis of our well-being and of our welfare in Europe. And this current common agricultural policy, as they called it, was very successful. A little bit too successful. As you can see, in the 80s, there were big piles of milk and the butter lakes and the milk mountains that created too much, and it was actually the big problem. And could you stop the video, please? At home it goes a lot smoother, but you always see that. So, in 2013, this CAP will undergo major reforms. And really the biggest problems that we had in the 80s are already are solved, or at least a lot of things changed. But there's still a lot to do. And I want to plead for, next to the greening measures that will be taking place, and also the redistribution from wealth from west to east, that we will also make the value of food some of the most important pillars of the common agricultural policy. As Professor Tim Lang said at the Food Film Festival, instead of a common agricultural policy, we need a common sustainable food policy. There's no room for the value of food in the common policy, and we should look at it in a more holistic way. Because there are a lot of problems still in our food system. Nowadays we have 1 billion people that have sicknesses that are related to eating too much unhealthy food. And in the same system we have 1 billion people that are chronically hungry. At the moment we are producing, and I have to say, at the moment we are producing enough food to give 9 billion people enough to eat. But the problem is distribution. Also, the industrial way of agriculture is destroying the planet. As Vandana Shiva said at the Food Film Festival 2 years ago, we now use 4 units of fossil fuel energy to produce 1 unit of food. That's a crazy system that cannot last. And we all know that that oil will run out in a short period of time. Also, the way we are producing food is destroying biodiversity. Try producing food without bees, you just simply can't. And at the same time, we are looking at this amazing growth in world population, and we need to find out a way that we can feed 9 billion people in 2015. So where did we go wrong? Where did we take the wrong exit after this great plan that Sikko Mansholt, who was one of the founders, and he was Dutch as well, of the Common Agricultural Policy, where did we take the wrong exits? Where did we take the system that created so much wealth in Europe, and where did we go wrong? It is because me, and on average you, we only spend 13% of our income on food, and that's an historic low. We can, for instance, buy iPhones. And I wanted to show you something about how we value food in our society right now. I have just put up a food film festival, so my last month bill of my telephone was 200 euros. That's quite expensive, I know. But that means that on average I spend 7 euros a day on calling. Calling is not something you eat, but I just wanted to, put it into perspective. Here I've got a bag of potato crisps. It's 200 grams. So that means and it costs about €1. That means that for a kilo of potato chips, it costs €5. So we had €7, €5, and then here I have a kilo of normal potatoes, and in the supermarket they cost €1.20. I know in a package of crisps there are more potatoes because in the process of baking you lose some weight, but just to put it into perspective, we had €7 for calling, €5 for the crisps, and €1.20 for the potatoes. And actually what the farmer gets for the potatoes is only 5 cents. And this is a potato that my friend Crispijn van der Dries produced. He's a farmer from Flevoland. It's an organic potato. And the price he gets for this potato now is 0 cents. He doesn't get anything at all for this potato because there was a great harvest in Holland, but also in the surrounding countries. And now he has 1,500 tons of potatoes still left in his barn, and he doesn't know what to do with it. There were actually 2 German buyers who said they were going to buy it, but in the end said they chose to buy German potatoes. So coming Sunday, we are going to the Dam Square in Amsterdam, and we're going to take 6 tons of it, a big tractor with a loader, and we're going to give it away to all the people in Amsterdam because otherwise we're going to spill it anyway. So if you have nothing to do this Sunday at 15 hours at the Dam Square, we're going to give away Crispijn's potatoes. So back to the idea. €7 for my phone, €5 for the crisps, $1.20 for the potato, and 0 for this potato. So this potato is actually worthless. It's worth nothing. After the Second World War, we have managed to make food very cheap. And we created great welfare by doing that. But in this process of industrialization, we have lost the value of our food. Nowadays, we know the price of everything, but we know the value of nothing. I think it's time to rethink the value food has in our societies. And we are part of an interconnected global food network. The big businesses, the retailers, the consumers and the producers, they are all part of this food system. And we need to realize that if we want to change something, then we all need to do our bit to change the entire system. If we do not like the way it functions, we all need to do our bit. And we can change the world with food. Carlo Petrini is the president and founder of Slow Food, and he said eating is an agricultural act to explain that if you're an eater, you are a part of the system. You're also responsible for the producing of food. We need to put back value into our meals. And we need to take the power back from the couple of multinational companies and put it back into the hands of the eaters. And that's actually why we found the Food Film Festival. It is aimed to create a bridge between consumers and producers and combine it with food professionals. It's actually an instrument to put the value of food back into our lives. And actually, this is working. It's growing more successful every year. Last year, we welcomed over 4,000 visitors who watched 25 films. They watched the big debate on agriculture. They went to market. They went to special programs like Food for Change. And we had also a couple of sold-out club nights that drew a very young and enthusiastic audience, as you can see. And this is something that we can make bigger. We need to grow this movement of young people that are interested in food. And actually, again, Carlo Petrini, he told me when he was in the Netherlands in May, young people nowadays have found it out. What rock music was doing in the 70s, food is doing right now. So, for the next 50 years of food, where do we stand? 2012 is the year that the Common Agricultural Policy will undergo major reforms. It has brought us food at a reasonable price. It has brought us iPhones, but it has also industrialized the way that we relate to food. We need to create a new master plan for the coming 50 years of food. And this time, it's not the policymakers that will decide, but it's the interconnected network of food producers and food consumers that will decide. This time, it's up to you and I. 2012, in my view, and I'm sure that that's true, is the year of change. I think 2012 is the turning point. It is the year that the new world will start to replace the old world. The old world was all about price the old world was all about scale and price. And the new world is more about the intrinsic values of food, like taste and health. And the old world was in the hands of a couple of very few big food-producing companies. And the big world, the new world, is in the hands of the eaters itself. Imagine a world where we produce enough healthy food at a reasonable price. Imagine a world where we regenerate and protect the environment rather than degrade it. It is possible with the technique that we have right now. It's something that we need to do, and we need to form an alliance with the people that produce our food. The consumers and the producers will have the power in the coming time. We can change the world. And we can change the world with food. And I think we will change the world with food. Thank you.